episode of D-Suite Nation is sponsored by Hoffman's Deco Deli. Now at their brand new location at 444 Saginaw Street in the heart of downtown Flint, Heath Hoffman and his staff has provided the Flint community with deliciously fresh food for the past 11 years. Whether you're stopping in for lunch, looking for catering for your corporate event or meeting, or simply stopping in for a hot cup of coffee, Hoffman's has something on the menu for you. Hoffman's Deco Deli, guaranteed to make your day a little fresher.
Welcome to the D-Suite Nation, everybody. We're live from Flint, Michigan today. It is a beautiful autumn day here in Flint. I'm joined today by Adam Alexander. He's an MMA fighter. He's from the area. Just won his pro debut.
Thanks for
Adam,
having me on, man.
welcome to the show, man. I heard a lot of good things about you, man.
Thank you.
Tell us about your childhood. What was your childhood like?
Well,
Like, where'd you grow up? Where did you go to school?
I grew up in Mount Morris, Clio area. Grew up oldest of 5, single mom.
Oldest of 5.
Yeah, we kind of were moving around different spots trying to find our home, and we eventually moved to this house in Clio, and I kind of started making a life around Clio for myself.
Clio's a nice town, man. Obviously, they have that indoor go-kart thing for children,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Not just for children, adults love it too.
Oh yeah, those
Okay.
things go pretty fast.
Allow me to recant, not just for children, but guys like Dan Hutchinson like to ride in it too with the kids. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I always wondered how they did the insulation inside of there and how you don't get carbon monoxide in there inside of a...
I never
I know
even
they
thought
know what
about
they're
that,
doing
but
there.
yeah.
You ever go to the Fenton Roadhouse? One of their famous spots there in Clio?
Oh yeah, the Clio Road.
Clio Roadhouse. I said Fenton Roadhouse, didn't I? I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
Clio Roadhouse.
Oh, yeah,
I used to go to the Fenton Roadhouse all the time. That's why I said that. But I have been to Clio Roadhouse.
Yeah. Honestly, bar scene's not really my thing, but I do hang out there. I mean, it's funny. I'll go there once a year, right around this time of year, and it's like a family reunion basically, because all my people I graduated with and friends I haven't seen in a long time are hanging out because they're in for the holidays.
I have a Clio Roadhouse. It's an embarrassing memory, but it did happen. I'll tell you. Dan is getting ready to learn this for the first time too, because I haven't told him this yet.
All right.
It was, I want to say, 5 years ago. My friend Stacy at the time, she lived in Clio, and I wanted to hang out with her. And she wanted me to meet her at the Clio Roadhouse. I said, sure. I said, I've been there before. They got good food there. It's a nice place. So I met her up there. It was on a Friday night, 5 years ago. I'm up there with her, and there's a lot of women in there, which obviously the scenery was nice because there's a lot of women in there.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, more women are walking in. Now the bar is packed, and I'm the only male in there.
Lucky you.
So, well, yes and no.
That's a good problem to have.
Right.
Yes and no. It's a nice problem to have as far as scenery, but it was male review night. That's why nothing but women in there, and then there was me in there. It was male review night.
Okay.
Okay. Need I say more?
No.
It was male. That's my memory of the Clio Roadhouse.
So how much did you make that night?
I didn't stay too long. Once they started performing, I got the hell out of Dodge. Well, Adam, did you play any other sports growing up before you were a fighter?
Yeah, mostly football, but I mean, football in Clio is kind of not synonymous,
How did you meet Steve Levels? How did Steve Levels come into your life?
I met him through football, actually. I was getting
Was he
ready
coaching where you were?
He was my defense coordinator going into my JV season. And back then, football was my life. I was just starting to get introduced into, interested into MMA and martial arts in general. And then I met him, and Steve.
Oh, yeah.
He
Not a better coach to have than him.
literally not. You talk about his work ethic. He instilled that into me.
That guy is not only work ethic, but he is maestro when
Yeah.
it comes to the football. I mean, he's a mad scientist, evil genius.
Yep.
What were you, a defensive end, linebacker? What were you?
Linebacker.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was what, middle school? You said?
No, it was JV, so
Okay.
it would be
So you were
going
in
into my sophomore year in high
Okay. So
school.
you were in high school.
Yep.
At Clio High School.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's good. How old were you when you first got into MMA training and fighting? How old were you?
It was right around the same time, actually. I was about 15, 16 when I started actually training
What made you want to get into that?
self-defense.
Self-defense?
Just wanted to be confident. I was an insecure kid. I didn't want to get beat up, and I wanted to learn some things.
I can't picture you being insecure. I mean, this guy has the maturity of a 35-year-old. You know what I'm saying? I know you agree with that, Dan. Yeah. So, where did you train when you first started? Like, where was the academy that you would go to regularly back then?
Well, I was training out of the wrestling room with my psychology teacher, Steve Poindexter.
Okay.
And I was learning the grappling arts from him, and Steve Levels introduced me to Joey Stevenson, which you know.
Yeah, boxing. Yep, the Stevenson brothers. Yep,
yeah.
everybody. That name is synonymous with boxing and
Yep.
and Flint, all over Michigan. Yeah, everybody knows who the Stevensons are.
Right on. So those were my roots. My striking roots was Joey Stevenson. My grappling roots was Steve Poindexter training with him in the wrestling room. And then I kind of ventured on, moved on, found some teams, and figured out what works for me, I guess.
How many amateur fights? Like approximately, how many amateur fights do you have in your belt? Like before you went pro? How long did you do amateur fighting?
It was about 7 years, I think. I have like
Been that long?
yeah, between boxing and MMA, I think I got 13 or 14 fights, and then I have a ton of jiu-jitsu tournaments. I was doing that from the time I started learning jiu-jitsu when I was 15 years old. I was going to tournaments like once a month or every other month and just getting my experience basically.
Okay, here's a question I have. Well, one of the questions, and you don't have to name people by names, okay? You can if you want to, but you don't have to. When you were an amateur fighter, like, because you got to remember, I'm not really that educated in MMA and UFC and all that stuff. I do know a little bit, but
All right.
like in your amateur years, do you have like a couple satisfying victories where like you just wanted to you literally want to rip a guy's head off and you were able to like choke him out or knock him out, like a satisfying victory, like I'm gonna lick this sucker when I see him. You ever have any fights like that? People like that, maybe people run their mouths a little too much saying what they're gonna do to you, and you already know what the outcome is gonna be.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm humble by nature, so I'm not like a Conor McGregor-esque where I'm a shit talker or anything like that too much, but...
Yeah,
like,
but have you ever thought in your head, though? You don't have to, like, verbally say it.
No, yeah, so...
But have you ever, like, thought in your head, I'm gonna try to kill this? Not literally kill the guy, but I'm putting this guy to sleep.
So,
You ever think that in your head?
big time, especially during the fight. And, but, like, say for instance, my second amateur fight, I fought this guy. His name is Nick. I don't even remember his last name, but I just remember meeting him and him looking me down. He said some words, and I get a little internal humor when guys look at me and they get confidence and they think they have it in their head that it's going to go a certain way for them, and I know it's actually going a different way. So,
Well, I'll tell you what. If I knew I was gonna fight him, I would train my ass off. This guy looks like he knows what he's doing, man. He's not somebody I would toy with.
it's that
If I had to fight this guy in February, I'm
You better be
committing.
working.
I'm going in 100% because you look like, and you do look humble. You're a nice guy. You're humble. You have a good background, good family upbringing. So
Yep.
I can see how you wouldn't engage in all that shit talking.
No, I don't too much, but during the fight, I will.
Right. Yeah.
Not before the fight, not after the fight.
But when it's over, it's over. Though.
but
When the
during
fight's
the-
over, shake hands, give him a hug, and wish him luck.
Yeah, yeah.
I can definitely
all is fair in war.
see doing that. Now you You had a professional fight. You had your first professional fight
last weekend.
last week.
Yep.
Tell us about like when you got the call, so to speak, or when you knew like you were going to fight a pro fight. Tell us the build up to that. Did you train differently now that you're a professional? Tell us a little bit, leading up to that first pro fight.
Well, I found out about the event back in April, and I was going through a knee surgery at the time.
This past April, okay.
Yeah, so I knew they were going to have the fight in November. I was going through the surgery. I spent the whole summer recovering my knee, and my goal from that surgery was I'm going to fight in November and make my professional debut. It's time. And I just made that my goal.
What did you do to your knee? What did you do to your knee?
I was preparing for a previous fight. I got it twisted up training with the Mott wrestling team.
Okay.
And I had a bucket handle tear on my meniscus on my knee.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I had to get that repaired, and like they can either take it out or actually stitch it back together and repair it, which is a little bit longer of a recovery. Mm-hmm. I had mine stitched back together, so it took me the whole summer to recover. I spent the fall getting my body prepared and everything, and then November I took the fight. I took the fight, I guess, in like September or August. And
wow, man, you were really determined.
Yeah.
To get in there.
For sure.
So who did you fight last week in your pro fight, and where was it at?
The fight was in Lansing, Michigan. I fought this guy named Robert Guerrera.
Okay.
I'm not sure where he's from, but talk about a tough Mexican boxer. He did not want to go away, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah?
Yeah, he was tough. It was definitely my toughest fight to date, and it was just a war back and forth, striking and grappling. I mean, we showed what mixed martial arts was about, and if you ask, like, anybody from that night, all the feedback that I was getting is it was fight of the night, which I'm a technician. I like my matches to be prettier than that, but that's something I wanted to experience that I've never had is going the distance. And I've never fought 5-minute rounds either. In amateurs, it's 3-minute rounds. So I went the distance and there were 5-minute rounds, and to me that was like an internal accomplishment.
So professional is 5 rounds, you said?
It's 3 rounds, but 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So is the conditioning different, like for pro as opposed to amateur?
Yeah, you just
got a different kind of conditioning.
For sure, you got to be able to last 5 minutes, or 15 minutes. But
how now? When you're preparing for a pro fight, let's say, what is it now? November. Let's say you got a fight coming up in February. Do you go like 6 weeks hard in your training? Like, how does your training go? Like, how do you do all that leading up to the fight?
yeah, basically I like to do a 6 to 8 week training camp. I'm finding like 6 to 7 weeks is a good sweet spot for me, because you'll run into where you train so hard that your body starts kind of burning out. So you got to kind of go in this roller coaster effect where you ramp the training up, and then the next week you drop it down, and then you ramp it up a little more, and then
Sure.
you drop it down, and then ramp it back up until you peak to fight week. So I kind of...
You don't do like Oscar De La Hoya does, do you? Where you don't have sex for 3 weeks with chicks?
No, sir.
It worked for him, I guess.
That's an old wives' tale. Anyway.
That's I don't know.
No sex while you're training.
I don't know who taught him that, but I can't say 3 weeks, but I don't think I haven't went 6 weeks probably since I was 11 years old, man. I can't even imagine how that would be.
Life of a fighter, though, yeah. Some of them do it. I've yet to be defeated, so...
What was your amateur record? What was your record?
10-0.
10-0.
10-0, and then I got 3 boxing matches.
Oh, you have 3 pro boxing matches also.
Amateur.
Oh, amateur?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Did you fight for Joey Stevenson's boxing? Who did you fight for? I didn't know you had boxing.
Yeah, is Tim Hall. Tim Hall runs
Okay.
Flint Town Fight Club.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah, oh, that is.
Yeah, I went through USA Boxing. I did a few matches. They were on the west side of the state. One of them was in Indiana, and like I could tell it was for me. Those matches were just experience. I wanted to get more experience on my feet and working striking, but I could tell that boxing wasn't my sport, just because it's the sweet science. Like, it's totally different than MMA.
This kid gets it. He just used the term "sweet science." He gets it. Bless your heart, man. A lot of people don't even know what that means, man. Now you're a southpaw, right?
No.
You're a southpaw?
No.
Some of my favorite boxers are southpaws. Marvelous Marvin Hagler was a
beautiful.
southpaw. My son, I named him after Hector Macho Camacho, man.
Okay.
He was a south. Camacho was a southpaw.
Okay.
I always loved the southpaws, man.
wasn't Roy Jones Jr. a southpaw?
He was orthodox. He did a little of both. He could do both. He was one. Roy Jones Jr. in his heyday was one of the very few that can excel doing both. We'll probably never see that again, but yeah, southpaw.
My favorite southpaw to watch right now is Vasily Lomachenko. You ever see him?
Yes.
He's
yes,
just a wizard. So
Yeah. Now, are you into like the old school UFC guys, like from like back in the mid '90s, like when the UFC first started doing that tournament?
yeah, I mean, you gotta think about it though.
Let me throw some names at you. Guys like Hoist Gracie, obviously.
Yeah.
Everybody knows
Yep.
that. Hoist Gracie. A
The
young
OG.
Ken Shamrock, okay? When I say Ken Shamrock, I'm talking about the young Ken Shamrock. I'm not talking about the guy who gets beat to death every time he fights now. Wears them mud chops and shit.
Oh, yeah.
Not that Ken Shamrock. I'm talking about young Pancrase champion in Japan.
Yeah.
Young Ken Shamrock, and then there was, Dan the Beast Severn.
Yep.
You heard of him?
He's from Michigan.
Yep, Coldwater, Michigan. And there was Don Fry.
Yep.
You remember Don Fry?
Yep. I forget who he was fighting, but when he fought in Pride, his most notorious fight.
It
I've
was
ever
that
seen,
tall. It was that
the Asian guy.
that tall Japanese guy. He had
Yeah.
blonde hair.
Yep. Where they're both
My
just
buddy.
going
Yes, they're literally doing this for 2 minutes straight
back and
nonstop.
forth to each other.
It wasn't Hong Man Choi, but the guy was. Yeah, I remember that fight. It's the best fight I've ever seen.
Nice.
Who were some other guys back then? Tank Abbott. You remember Tank Abbott?
Yep. Yep. The UFC was created in 1993. I was born.
Yeah.
I was born in 1993.
You were born in 19.
Yeah.
He was born in 1993.
And the funny thing about it is those matches, those first UFC tournaments, I think Hoist Gracie won the first two at least.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but those fights were so exciting, but they were so short. Like when Hoist Gracie won that first UFC,
Yeah.
he submitted Ken Shamrock in
Yes, he did.
less than a round.
Yeah, it was in the first round.
They didn't have time limits back then, though,
He-
did they?
They had rounds. They went 3 rounds.
No, not in
And-
the first. Not in the first ones.
Yeah.
The first ones, it was.
They switched it after.
It was. There was no rounds, and there was no. I don't know if I'd say there was no time, because I remember when he fought Ken Shamrock the second time. That wasn't a part of the tournament. It was. I think that was UFC 3. I think there was the tournament, and then the main event was Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie. That was just a separate fight. After, I want to say like 35 or 40 minutes, they stopped it, and then they kind of went into an overtime, and then after 5 minutes, they just stopped it because nobody was giving up or tapping or nothing.
Yeah.
But back in the early years, it was really not really a time limit. There was no biting and no eye gouging.
Yep.
Anything goes. You can punch guys in the nuts. You can hit them in the back of the head.
There's.
You could pull hair. Hoist Gracie, when he fought Chemo, he had a hold of that ponytail the whole time. And
Yep.
now that was when Hoist Gracie was in his prime, though. I'm gonna tell you right now, had Chemo not had that ponytail, he might have beaten him that day. Do you remember Chemo?
Yeah.
He was a bad boy too, man. Now that was no weight divisions.
Yep.
I
Thing
mean,
is,
you had karate, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. You had all these different
Yeah.
Styles,
That
man.
was
Now let me ask you.
definitely different,
Let me ask
yeah.
you a question. If you were to fight back then, what would your discipline be? Would it be kickboxing, jiu-jitsu? What would you what would your style be?
I would call myself a freestyle fighter.
Freestyle fighter?
And that's what I am right now, and that's what you have to be in this like day and age in MMA, because I take pride in being able to do it all. I strike, I can box, I can kickbox, I can wrestle with you, I can go on the ground and submit you. We can sit in the clinch and I can hammer knees on you.
What do you think of Nate Diaz?
Tough guy.
Okay, I was in Gary, Indiana, last summer. There was a guy there. He was a truck driver. We were at Subway eating, and we just got to talking. The reason why we got to talking is because I could hear his phone, and he was watching wrestling. And I just basically told him, "Hey, man, I'm a big wrestling fan too." Eventually, that led up to, he said he knows all these people, and he started talking about MMA fighters and UFC fighters. And he said Nate Diaz is like a good friend of his. And then he showed me pictures of them two together. I was like, oh, okay. I asked him. This is where the conversation with him and I this is where he got to know like the real me. Because I asked him if he was sniffing glue. I said, I just threw a name out there. I said, what do you think Nate Diaz would do to Hoist Gracie in his prime? He said he'd knock Hoist Gracie out. Now, let me ask you that, a pro. Let me ask. Hoist Gracie in 1994 fought Nate Diaz. Whenever Nate Diaz was at his best, who wins and how?
Nate Diaz wins because he's more of a put together mixed martial artist. Back in the very first days, guys were like experts in one field of martial arts. So like it's just a different time now. You have to be able to do it all. If you are gonna come, like take for instance Ben Askren. He just came into the UFC in 2 fights. He's known for solely his wrestling. He was an Olympic wrestler. He came in and got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal, and then he got submitted by Damian Maia. So it's like you can't fight at the highest level of the game now and only be specializing in one thing. You have to be able to do it all.
See, now, I'm a huge Nate Diaz fan. He's been one of my favorite fighters since he won the UFC TV show competition, The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Hoist Gracie, man, that guy he's a jiu-jitsu expert. Like, when those first UFC fights were set up, the premise of it was, we're going to take one guy from each type of fighting style and see who comes out on top.
Right.
Yeah.
Hoist Gracie took on all those guys and was submitting them like real quick within minutes. Not even 2 to 3 minutes in the first round or at the beginning of the fight. So Nate Diaz is a good fighter. He's a good striker and he's a good grappler, but man, Hoist Gracie I think would submit him so fast.
Well, let me ask you this, Adam. If they went to the ground, if they're on the ground, now I know Nate Diaz has the total package. I understand that.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of Nate Diaz. Okay, all that smoking weed where everybody thinks is cool, that don't do nothing for me. If Gracie was on his back and they're on the ground, how would Nate Diaz be able to counter all that stuff? Especially when you're allowed to use the gi.
Yeah.
Gracie used his gi as leverage.
Gracie thrived on his back.
Yeah, but he used his gi. Nate would stand up and just ground and pound him. I honestly think
Really?
that Hoist Gracie wasn't even like, not to disrespect Hoist Gracie.
I know.
He did wonderful things his wins in those old days like blew up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner is forever grateful because of that. Because now everybody knows that Jiu-Jitsu is the real deal. But Nate Diaz, like, even if he was wearing the guys that Hoist was fighting didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu, okay? So they knew their specializations, but they didn't know jiu-jitsu. So if you can at least base counter a guy, even if he's a black belt, and then use your strikes well against him, I don't know. I don't see Hoist ever winning that fight. Did you see him fight Matt Hughes? Matt Hughes just destroyed him.
I remember that fight.
That was also Hoist at the end of his career.
That was bald-headed boy Hoist Gracie, wasn't it? That was bald-headed Hoist.
Hoist Gracie was on the verge of retirement, and Matt Hughes was
Yeah.
a young, up-and-coming stud fighter.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, I respect his opinion. I mean, this is the opinion of a professional fighter that knows what he's talking about. I respect his opinion. That is one of my. That's what, you know, when people talk about dream matchups. You know, they talk about LeBron James and Michael
Hoist
Jordan.
and Nate Diaz,
They
huh?
talk about Mayweather, Pacquiao. If they would have fought in the younger years. I mean, I would like to see Nate Diaz.
I would
and
like to
Hoist
see
Gracie.
that too.
What? Okay, how about Nate Diaz and young Ken Shamrock?
Oh, they're totally different weight classes, but
Okay, if Nate had to fight back in those days where there was no weight classes,
I don't think he'd make
could he fare well against them big monsters that like Gracie was fighting back then, like, you know, Don Fry, Dan Severn?
You picture Nate Diaz against Tank Abbott? That's an unfair fight.
yeah.
I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Tank Abbott. I can't remember. I don't remember the name of the guy that he did this to, and I would love to have Tank Abbott someday sitting in that chair, man.
Oh, I'm
He
sure
fought
he's
this
got
one
some-
guy, and you can look at the films too. You'll see it. Had him up, picked him up, and he was trying to throw him out of the octagon. He had him up there, but the guy was like, you know, scratching and clawing, trying to get his way out. He had him 2/3 of the way where he was going to throw him out. He almost threw this guy out of the cage, man. I love Tank Abbott. I remember he fought. This is what got me to liking Tank Abbott. He fought this big Hawaiian guy. This guy was 400 pounds. His name was
old UFC
I can't.
days.
Yeah, this is the old UFC days. I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember these guys didn't like each other. They got into their little tango, whatever, and Tank hit him a couple times. Bam, bam, bam. He dropped him. And when he dropped him, the guy was already knocked unconscious. He was like, looked like a dead deer on the road. You know how a deer kind of sits there like this when he's dead?
Yeah.
He jumped on him before the ref got in there. And while he was down, bam, hit him again. When he got up, when the ref stopped it, he got up, he had his hands raised, and he looked at the guy, and he was like making fun of him. Man, he knocked that guy. I wish I remember that guy's name. John Matua. He was like a big Samoan. This was like a big Samoan he did that. I used to love Tank Abbott back
Yeah,
then, man.
he was a beast. He
Yeah.
was the guy that would party with you
Yes.
all night long and then wake up the next morning and destroy guys.
Yes, that was the Tank Abbott mystique back then, man.
Yep.
That I used to watch that all the time on pay-per-view, man. You know, I have a question for you, man. What, like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather? Why do these cage fighters get in the boxing ring with professional boxers? Did you actually think Conor McGregor was going to beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the boxing ring?
No, I didn't personally. I thought that was solely a money grab.
Is that why? I mean,
Publicity, money grab stuff.
Yeah.
like, is there money to be made in the UFC? Do they like not get paid enough? Is this why they resort to like maybe trying to hype up a pro boxing fight where they know
Yeah.
they'll get paid?
I mean, the top tier guys in the UFC get paid super well, but other than that, no, it's way. I don't understand it, but boxers get paid way more than MMA fighters.
Yeah, those big money fights, like Floyd Mayweather fights, the disparity in the main card payout for those big fights, like Floyd Mayweather fights, Conor McGregor made way more money losing that fight than he ever did winning a fight.
Yeah,
For sure.
I believe he's right.
Sure.
Have you been following this Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya
No.
saga going on? How
What's
they
up with that?
they like hate each other. Have you been following that, Dan?
You know, I didn't follow it, but it came back up on the radar after I just recently watched the 30 for 30, the Chuck and Tito 30 for 30. And I guess, you know, Oscar De La Hoya runs a competing UFC type
Yeah.
thing,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
and that's where it's all stemming from.
You can look that up. There's like they're like getting personal with each other, talking about each other, and Oscar is basically saying how, yeah, you don't pay these guys enough. I'll pay them what they need to be paid. And Dana White, he goes on TV and he has all these figures like, look, I paid him this, this, and this. Now I like Dana White, but then he said something like he would kick Oscar De La Hoya's ass. I got news for you. If you guys actually tangled and was fighting, Oscar De La Hoya would knock you out. Dana White, I'm talking about. He'd knock Dana White out. You don't think Dana White could beat Oscar De La Hoya in a fist fight, do you?
No, but I think
Oscar De La
those guys
Hoya,
need to just both
listen,
sit
I know
down.
as feminine as he sounds, and I do believe that he has sex with men and women. No, in the boxing ring, man, I mean, this guy lost a split decision to Floyd Mayweather, a young Floyd Mayweather Jr. Lost a split decision.
Yeah.
Some people thought he won that fight. I didn't think he won, but I thought it was close. But, yeah, you ought to look at that Dana White and Oscar. It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
They get personal with each other. You know when it's a real hatred when they start, like, getting personal, like talking about each other's families and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of how that Conor McGregor-Khabib fight, the lead up to it, was getting so personal, and that's why he took the beating that
Was
he
Khabib,
did.
was he on that bus when
Yeah,
when Conor McGregor threw that dolly at the bus?
Yeah.
What was that all about? How did that start? What is that all about? Why did he do that? Why did McGregor do that?
It's just a publicity stunt, honestly.
Was he trying to build up the fight? Is
Yeah.
that why he did that?
Yeah,
Well, he ended up going to court.
yeah. I mean, then,
It's made out to be what somebody in Khabib's camp was talking shit to McGregor, or somebody in McGregor's camp calling him some.
oh yeah, that is what happened. Like Khabib and his posse come up to his one of Conor's training partners, Artem Lobov, and like basically like surrounded him and like intimidated him. Khabib actually put his hand like on his face and was just like just kind of gave him a little baby slap. And
Is Khabib, is he the real deal? What do you think of Khabib?
yeah, that is a guy who I implement my grappling
When are him and Nate
after.
Diaz? When are him and Nate Diaz going to get it on? How come we don't hype that up? When are they going to get? When are they going to get it on? They're not going to do like Pacquiao and Mayweather and wait till they're 68 years old to fight, are they?
Well, Nate Diaz just lost a fight, so I don't.
Did
He fought. They had the BMF title, the bad motherfucker title. Did you hear anything about
Bad
that?
motherfucker. I've never heard. What is
They-
the bad motherfucker?
they-
Is that a
they-
real title?
They actually, the UFC made a belt.
It's a special promotional belt.
Yeah.
The Rock was involved in it.
Oh God.
It was going like that.
The belt in that weight class, I think, because correct me if I'm wrong, because Khabib has it or whatever.
No, it was Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz that fought for it.
Somebody owns that belt in that weight class, or it's kind of in an interim status.
Yeah.
Because of Khabib's suspension.
Yeah,
So
Khabib.
they wanted to promote this main
Yeah.
event for something, right? So it was just kind of a made-up belt.
They make more money.
Is that
if
the
there's
belt that The
title on
Rock
it.
had around his? It was like a couple
Yeah,
weeks
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Where were they at? The Madison Square Garden or something like
Yep.
that? They were in New York.
Yep.
That's what that was all about
Yeah.
when I had to look at The Rock.
Yep, because they got the Rock involved.
So they're kind of, I don't know. To me,
Oh,
it's
God.
distasteful. Like,
Oh,
there's something to be said about being a UFC champion, but that is kind of bush league to me.
listen. Here's where I stand on that. Man, if my Uncle Eddie sees this, he's probably going to disown me after I say this because The Rock is his favorite all-time wrestler. The Rock is very, very talented, okay? Make no mistake about it. Acting, he's got the good mic skills like Dan talked about a few weeks ago. Probably the best mic skills ever. Very, very talented. Athletic, he's got the look. He's got it all.
You could tell he's held a belt before.
Yeah. Now, with that said, I wasn't a big Rock fan back when he was wrestling. You know, he wasn't one of my favorites. I don't watch any of his movies, okay? I'm just not a fan of his. Now, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to learn this UFC stuff, and I got to look at him walk to a podium with a belt around his shoulder,
You're probably the only
talking
person.
with that smile. I mean, come on, man.
Exactly.
Quit. when I'm watching a UFC or MMA, it should be about them, man. Quit stealing these guys' spotlight.
Exactly.
Get out of there.
Thank you.
Oh, no, God. Nah, not me. And then he's talking about running for president, man. What a joke. What a joke you are. He gets on my nerves. I'm sorry. The guy gets on my nerves.
Ray, who would you rather have president, Donald Trump or The Rock?
I'm not, don't ask me no politics. Don't ask me no politics. This is not, no. Don't ask me that kind of stuff.
Nah.
I just didn't. I didn't know that's why he was walking around with that belt. I didn't know what that belt was. I just seen him walking down the aisle, like, okay, that's what that's all about.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that? You like The Rock?
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind The Rock at all. But I thought, to me, the UFC is the pinnacle of the sport. It seemed kind of like, I don't know.
So that was the BMF title he was wearing around.
Yeah, it seems like that should be, you should let lower, less prestigious promotions do things like that. Like,
Yes, I
take
agree with
stock in your UFC champions.
And I do agree with Dan. I'm probably the only one who felt that about The Rock. I wasn't getting. Yeah, you're probably right. But he's just an obnoxious idiot. He gets on my nerves. He's talented though. No, he's very talented. It's just it doesn't appeal to me. It never has. Nothing he ever does appeals to me. I don't like listening to him talk. He just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, but Khabib, you were talking about, he's about to fight probably this guy named Tony Ferguson, which
Who was Tony Ferguson?
He's a lightweight fighter. He actually wrestled at Grand Valley State University.
Okay.
He is a beast, and he's known for cutting people up with elbows.
Oh, really?
So it's going to be a really tough fight.
What's his name again? The other guy?
Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson. I'm gonna have to look him up.
Yep, look him up, but it's going to be Khabib's toughest fight for sure, and that one's going to be a war.
Now,
and I like them both.
Now, when Khabib, when he beat McGregor and spit on him, I didn't care for that spit, and I don't even like Conor McGregor.
Who spit on who?
Khabib. Remember after what did he choke him out? Was that a choke out?
I don't
beat McGregor. Khabib when he beat McGregor.
I don't recall him spitting on him though. He did.
Submitted him. Do you remember him before he
crushed
ran out
his
to the
face.
crowd? Don't you remember him spitting on him?
I didn't watch that fight.
Okay.
I thought it stemmed from just somebody in his corner.
He definitely did spit on him. I mean, you can't really. You'd have to pay attention to it.
Okay.
Like if you were to watch it now and pay attention to it, you'd be like, oh, yep, yeah, he did spit on him. It wasn't like where you could see spit coming out of his mouth and it like landed on his face. It wasn't like that. It was after he submitted him and McGregor was kind of sitting like leaning, against the fence like this. He did spit at him, and then he ran out into the crowd.
I got you.
Now, I thought that was out of line, man. What do you think of that kind of sportsmanship? Somebody getting spit on.
I don't agree with those antics at all, but here's the thing.
Spitting on somebody's crossing the line.
It is crossing the line, but Conor McGregor, the way he built up that fight, he was talking about Khabib's country. He was talking about his religion. He told him that he told him literally his wife as a towel. I mean, he's from Muslim descent, so his wife was wearing a...
Oh, McGregor was saying that stuff?
Yeah, so he took it to a really personal spot with that. Yeah.
Personal with his shit talking.
Yeah.
That's
So
why so many fighters
so that's why that happened.
But there's one thing to talk shit about somebody, but you get in the ring, that's where you're supposed to handle it.
Yeah.
You just submitted this guy. Why spit on him?
Yeah, I totally don't agree with the afterward antics, jumping over the ring, all that. But Conor McGregor did have it coming to him in the same breath.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really aware of all that other behind-the-scenes stuff. But
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine getting spit on by anybody.
No,
Oh,
that
goodness
is the
gracious.
worst thing you could do to me.
Listen, man, talking about my family is one thing.
Yeah.
Whooping my ass is one thing. I mean, I could go home with that, ass whooping.
Yeah.
Slashing my tires,
Right. No.
making fun of my kids or whatever. But damn, spitting at me though? Oh, man.
I was
I'm not doing that.
I was spit on one time. I was in the Army in basic training, and we were going on a PT run in the morning.
Yeah.
And the dude calling the cadence outside of the main formation was another recruit or another trainee like I was. And we got into some words, and he spit in my face.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I jumped out of formation and punched this motherfucker in the face.
I don't blame you.
Now, once the drill sergeants found out what happened, they were like, "Hey, I punched in the face too." So nothing really. I didn't get in any trouble because the drill sergeant was like, "Well, you had it coming. You don't spit in his face."
Exactly.
If somebody in here spit in my face, I'm going to my glove compartment. I'm going to, no, spitting. That's the only thing that would make me go to my glove compartment.
Yeah.
If you spit in my face, I am going to my glove compartment in my car.
I'll just use my hands because it's happening right then.
Spit,
and
no,
there.
because being spit on, I would feel a different way.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't spit on nobody.
It is.
Yeah. That,
I
yeah.
would never.
Second disrespect, I think, would be getting slapped, not punched, slapped. When somebody has no respect for you,
Yeah.
where they just slap you with a backhand.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that, getting slapped?
I got a story about being
First of all, I
slapped before.
wouldn't slap you, okay? Just so you know.
I've been slapped one time.
I got slapped by my girlfriend one time. I've been slapped once,
Nice.
open hand,
Nice.
bam, like Dr. D style. She slapped me like that.
Dr. T, nice.
But oh yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
Yep.
Didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you ever look at that?
No, I didn't get
Okay.
a chance to. No, I'll check out Dr. D though today. No, one time I got slapped. It was after one of my amateur fights. We were across the street hanging out, drinking a little bit just after the fights, and it happened to be the same weekend as a Michigan State game, and Michigan beat Michigan State. And the State fan we were outside in the street basically at the end of our night, and the State fan come into our powwow, and he was just pissed off because State lost to Michigan.
He went into your, like, where you guys' circle was?
Yeah, he came into our circle, and and he was right across from me, and he's just talking shit, and everyone's kind of just like, get out of here, dude, pretty much. And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, he open hand slaps me across the face.
The Michigan State guy?
Yeah. And it was like...
Does that guy did he have a death wish or something?
He did. It was like...
I wouldn't slap this dude, man. Are you crazy?
There was no, like, pause or hesitation. It was like, as my face was going this way, my arm was already coming back, like, to get him. And I probably should have closed my fist, but if I did, he might have been knocked out. Anyway, I left it open, and I slapped him back. It was the first time I ever slapped somebody. And I had just got in a fight, like, a couple hours ago. And when I slapped him, it was like you said. It was like I put him down on his butt, and I dropped him with a slap. And then, like, the powwow basically jumped on this guy and started beating him up. My brother grabbed him up, threw him up against a taxi, and it was crazy. But, yeah, that night after a fight, I got slapped. I had to slap a guy back.
Well, like I said, I would not slap you whatsoever.
Thank you.
No, you don't look like... When we seen him, when we met him yesterday, we met Adam yesterday. We had to go through some things. When you came up the escalator, I told Dan, I said, there he is, right? That's him right there. Are you sure it's him? I said, yeah, that's him. I said, that's definitely him. I could tell. Because I know a pro MMA fighter when I see one.
Yeah.
You just have that look. Now, I'm gonna change the subject a little bit here. We're gonna have a little fun this time.
Okay.
I want you to name three, okay? Three. Any sport, any pro sport, whether it's MMA, whether it's UFC, NFL, anything. Pro wrestling, I don't care. Who are your name three like pro athletes that you just grew up loving? You love, like you would love to meet them someday. Any sport.
3 pro athletes.
Yeah, anybody. It could be from the same sport for all I care.
Okay. I'll say George St. Pierre. He was a huge inspiration in my life as an MMA fighter. Football, I mean, growing up, I was always mesmerized by Barry Sanders. He was just, and I wasn't a running back at all myself, but I just didn't know how a person could move like that.
Cut
it
like
was
that.
crazy. So
I don't know how he did that either.
to me, I love watching Barry Sanders highlights. And then I guess I'll go another football route. I really liked watching just Ray Lewis destroy guys. I was a linebacker myself, so, and then I had like Steve Levels in my head a little bit,
yeah.
but he loved Ray Lewis. He loved
Yes, he did.
that he would be from one side of the field to the other quick. I mean, that was just way he played. He was field general, so I kind of always wanted to get my game going like Ray Lewis. Like, I wanted to be the field general. I wanted to be able to be everywhere like him. So I'll give you a couple football players: Ray Lewis, Barry Sanders.
Have you ever listened to LeBron James versus Michael Jordan talk?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that? LeBron James or Michael Jordan? I'm supposed to be saving this for another day, but screw it. Talk about it every day if we want.
Yeah. I'm not a huge basketball fan.
I know. But those two guys, though, these guys are different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen Michael Jordan? Were you old enough to watch?
I never even watched. I've only seen his highlights. I've never watched him play in a game. So.
That's probably not a fair question to ask a guy who's never
But
sat down and
how,
watched Michael Jordan play basketball.
how much does size play a factor in the NBA? Because LeBron versus
You don't have to have watched somebody back in the day. I mean, with the technology we have today, with films and YouTube, you don't have to watch somebody. Like I know about Wilt Chamberlain and Oscar Robertson,
Yeah.
the great Joe Louis. I know all about them guys. I wasn't a lot. Johnny Unitas. I know all them guys. Deacon Jones, who I talked about for like 20 minutes 3 weeks ago. You don't have to have been alive when these guys played. Now you asked me, what'd you just ask me? What rules are or what was the question?
how much does size play a factor in the NBA? I mean, LeBron's 6'8", isn't he?
Well, it depends. I mean, traditionally, like guards, like Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, like they get matched up on somebody that's 6'7", 6'8", or above. It's usually going to be a mismatch because speed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But LeBron is 6'8", sort of like what Magic Jordan or Magic Johnson was like a 6'7", 6'8" point guard. So they kind of got that power forward size, but guard speed.
I got you. Yeah.
Generally, in sport, okay, this goes for any sport. We can even use cage fighting or MMA fighting. In sport, when two guys possess the same exact skills, their ground game is exactly the same, their striking is exactly the same, hand-eye coordination is exactly the same. Sprinting, when they run, they have, everything's the same, everything's equal up. Generally in sport, the bigger person is the better athlete than the littler guy.
Yeah. If everything else
Because
is
big
equal.
skills beat small skills all the time. Now, small skills beat tall stiffs all the time,
Yeah.
but generally the bigger person, I'm talking about when you're equivalent to everything in every aspect, speed, whatever, this and this and this, generally the bigger guy is going to win,
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
But LeBron only has 2 inches on Jordan. Jordan was 6'6", LeBron's 6'8".
But see, here's where LeBron gets a bad rep. Okay, obviously we know he's only won 3 championships in 9 appearances. Okay, yeah, we know that. And they always say, well, what rules are we playing by? Are we going by Michael, back when Michael played, when they were allowed to do, knock you on your ass and this and that?
Yeah.
How would you like LeBron James hand checking you in a game where he can hand check? That's why I asked that question. That's usually the question that stirs a little controversy because I am not a guy that has been brainwashed to say that Michael Jordan is God, and it's him and then there's everybody else. That's not it.
Yeah.
Because now he's old enough to know Michael dominated the 90s. Okay, he dominated the 90s. We know Michael Jordan was in the 90s. Now in the 80s, he was averaging 35 a game. Mm-hmm. In '88 he won the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. But when Magic, Bird, and Isaiah was doing their thing in the 80s, Michael Jordan was finishing third and fourth in the division in the 80s. So Michael Jordan is the best player of the 90s. He's not the best player of all time.
Quote The Rock here and say,
Oh.
it doesn't matter.
Well,
It doesn't matter. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball.
what doesn't matter? It doesn't matter what I think?
It doesn't matter what era, what rules, what Michael Jordan is his prime against LeBron in his prime. It's no contest. Michael Jordan had this killer instinct that LeBron does not possess. LeBron would rather give up a pass and let somebody else take a shot than just say, you know what? He doesn't have that Kobe, that Jordan thing. Give me the ball and get that fuck out of the way. LeBron doesn't have that. That's what made Jordan so great. He'd take over games he just individually just dominated a game.
Look at these bums that LeBron James has played with. Yes, I mean he's had the big two. He's had the big, Dwayne Wade, the big three, whatever, Kyrie Irving. But look at the bums that he's taken to the finals 9 times. All these bums. You couldn't name 10 guys other than Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. It would take you 10 minutes to name 10 of his teammates in the last 15 years. He takes bums to the finals.
I wouldn't call them bums, but the last year that they did win the championship or they went to the finals, that was a scrub team that he did drag to the finals. But the other teams, he had some decent.
I think when it's all said and done, when he retires, he's going to be the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He's going to break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. He's going to be the all-time leading scorer. He's the only player in the NBA. You didn't think we'd be talking an NBA topic today, did you?
I did not. No, that's cool. I heard LeBron he's been putting like fake hair on his head.
Yeah.
And one of his teammates had to say, "Yo, your thing's up."
He's going to break those records sort of the same way that Emmitt Smith broke the Russian record, right? You play long enough, you're going to get that. LeBron is such a physical specimen. He's going to play. He's probably going to pass Vince Carter. Vince Carter's been playing in the league 20 years. LeBron wants to play with his son. Bronny is like in 8th grade or something like that. His goal is to play in the league with his son at the same time.
That would be crazy.
One more thing about Michael Jordan. See, 5 years in a row. Trying to get the years right. 86, 87, 88, 89, and 90. Larry Bird, 2 years in a row. Swept him 2 years in a row. You ever heard of the Detroit Bad Boys?
Yeah.
Pistons? After Larry Bird was done doing that to him, 3 years in a row, we sent him to the golf course. That doesn't get talked about. No one talks about that.
No.
We give LeBron James a hard time for losing in the finals all the times he did.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about what Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas was doing to Michael Jordan every year for half a decade in the 80s.
Those teams also, those Celtics and the Pistons teams, they were some pretty loaded teams with talent. Those teams had talent across the board. In the early years after Michael Jordan got drafted, that team wasn't a good team.
There's always an excuse for Michael Jordan. That's one thing you'll learn if you ever learn about it. There's always an excuse for him. He's the best player of the 90s. The best player of the 90s.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Scottie Pippen? Do I got to get into Scottie Pippen today? I love Ho Grant. I love Ho Grant. Listen.
John Paxson, Greg Hodges, Adrian Armstrong, Cliff Livingston. Shall I go on?
No, you mentioned Scottie Pippen. You mentioned Scottie Pippen's name. Do we got? Are we going to talk about that today? Or you want to wait till another time? Okay, all right. We'll get back to MMA. Are you? Do you have another fight coming up, or have you guys talked about maybe a possible opponent?
Yeah, opponent, not really. I'm looking at February, going again in February, and I don't know the promotion, but like I train out in Toronto with this gym, Bazooka Kickboxing, and I might end up finding like a promotion with those guys because they have good connections, and it might be a closer route or a faster route to get to the more international.
Who are the guys that run that Bazooka boxing and MMA? Who are
Joe Valtellini, which is he was Glory welterweight champion for Glory Kickboxing. He's now the color commentator, but he's just an amazing kickboxing mind, and I've studied him online myself for a couple of years, and then I started going out there. I drove myself out there, caught a bus, and get my training in with him, and that's like who I try to make my striking game, implement it after, is Joe Valtellini. He's just a wizard.
Well, I'll tell you this, Adam. Here's what I think. I think that you have a hunger to get better and better. Like, I think that you will reach your goal, your ultimate goal on where you want to be. I can see that in you, man. You used the word humble earlier. You're a humble kid.
Thank you.
Very, very intelligent, very smart, very disciplined. It sounds like, you had a good upbringing, you had good mentors.
Oh, yeah.
But what you need to understand is that it only takes one stupid act to screw all that up. Everything that you've worked for all your life, wanting to be a fighter, a pro fighter, get to the next level, it takes one stupid act to screw it up. So you have to, like the more success that you climb, you're going to have leeches around you, and there's going to be more and more and more. You have to be careful who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
When your time is done with the MMA and what I think will be UFC someday, when your time is done and you're retired, make sure you leave the game the way that you came into the game. Leave it just like the way you found it, and then you'll be able to you'll be like Steve Levels, man. You'll be coaching people and mentoring people, and people will look up to you. Everybody in the world someday is going to know who you are. But you just, keep your nose clean, be a good follower. Now, what I mean by that, I'm talking about your trainers, your coaches, the guys that are pushing you, Bazooka, or whoever, guys like Steve Levels that give you advice. Always be a good follower to people like that.
Yes.
And you'll never go wrong in anywhere, man. You don't come across somebody that I think is going to get in any trouble with the law. I can just tell.
No.
I'm a good judge of character. I don't care what anybody says. You just don't look like somebody that's going to get in trouble.
Appreciate that.
But just always remember, it only takes one stupid act, and that'll change everything. And then life would really be miserable for you.
Definitely.
But you keep doing what you're doing, man. You work hard. I am going to have you back on the show before your next fight.
Okay.
And we'll talk about your next fight. And
all right, yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed that NBA topic. How I got into that, I don't know.
No, that's all right.
It's probably because you're tall. He just looks like he could play ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
what are you, 6'4"? What are you, 6'3"?
No, I'm 6'1".
Okay.
I'm 6'1", but I do get it all the time.
He looks like he can ball.
I'll be at the YMCA and I get asked, "Are you a basketball player or a swimmer or a runner?" Like none of the above. But
Before we go, you said you want to mention any of the other camps that you train out of or fight out of?
yeah, I mean, I said I'm from Clio, but I live in Flint. I'm in and out of Flint. Half the gyms that I train at are in Flint. I consider Flint my hometown. Like, this is where I'm from.
Yeah.
So, like, if you guys are interested in learning some jiu-jitsu or boxing, a couple of gyms in Flint, like, you can come. I instruct at this gym called Great Lakes Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then also Flint Town Fight Club, and they're both in Flint. You can look them up on Facebook. But I'm there throughout the week, and I'd love to train with you or whatever. Anybody from Flint, come out. This is my home, and I love that there's a sports podcast now in Flint promoting Flint athletes and things like that. So I really appreciate you having me on here.
I'm sure Dan would probably take you up on that offer, maybe going in there messing around a little bit. I carry a gun everywhere.
Right.
Well, I mean, I have a CPL permit.
Yeah.
I don't have it in here now,
I
but
gotcha.
I carry a gun.
Hey,
I had back surgery.
it's
now.
smart.
I carry a gun everywhere.
You mentioned you fought with
That's smart.
Warrior Way.
Yep. Also, Warrior Way, they're out of Commerce Township. They're a little bit more south, but they're who my the jiu-jitsu gym that I belong to is affiliated through. That's where we get our rank from. Brandon Fracassi and Angelo Popovsky and Harvey Berman. They all have brought me through the jiu-jitsu ranks. So yeah, check out Warrior Way too. But Great Lakes BJJ or Flint Town Fight Club for sure in Flint.
Okay, well, yeah, you definitely have a good foundation with guys like Steve Levels, Joey Stevenson, and the other guys that you just mentioned. You have a good foundation, and
Yes, I do.
we, Dan and I, man, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very
and,
much.
I'm the kind of guy, I played sports when I was young. I physically can't do it anymore, but I'm always trying to give it back. Whether it's having somebody on my show or showing up to a practice of maybe a basketball practice. If I can give it back any way that I can, that's what I try to do. So my phone line is always open to you. You ever want to talk about something? Cool. Because I really meant what I said when I think that you're going to make it to where you think you're going to go. I think you're going to make it there. And if you ever wanted to call me and talk about something personal where it just stays between us, man, I'm up for that too, man. You call me anytime you want.
Thank you for that.
And yep.
Yep, I'll keep you guys posted.
He just said February. Listen to the guy, will you? He said February.
I will
What's wrong
keep you
with him?
posted.
What's wrong with him? He over-medicated himself. He's got that broken leg. He over-medicated himself. He said February.
It's official.
Will do.
We'll make sure we blast that on our social.
Absolutely.
Okay, Adam. Hey, man. God bless you, man.
Thank
God
you very
bless your
much.
family, man. And you just keep your head screwed on straight and remember everything I told you.
Will do. Thank
And
you
we're
very
always
much.
here for you. This is not just a guest appearance. We're here for you, man. If you ever need to talk to us about anything, we'll be here for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.